a woman who has been trying to speak up about her sexual assault since the early 90s, was recently denied a platform by the Me Too movement or the Time's Up movement because of the person she was accusing. So now that woman is named Tara Reid. Now, Tara Reid was a former Senate staffer to presidential candidate Joe Biden. So now the person that she is accusing of sexual assault happens to be her former boss. And that might have something to do with the fact that this organization didn't support her. So now, last April, after, of course, wanting to tell her story for years and trying to tell her story for years, she gave an interview to a local reporter describing several instances where Biden had inappropriately touched her during her early 90s tenure in his Senate office. So now in that first interview, the reason that she had came out first is because of what happened to another woman, Lucy Flores. So now Lucy Flores, when she heard Flores's story, it basically brought her back to when the same thing happened to her. Well, now that Flores is out, maybe now I can share my story. And so that's what she said. And now keep in mind, this was last April. When she came out with it last April, she was immediately smeared as a Russian agent. So now she was attacked and smeared just like Lucy Flores was smeared. I remember talking about that. I remember seeing that. Now, after that smear, she quieted back down and she thought, well, look, maybe I need to get some help. There are some powerful forces against me, and they're coming after me. They're attacking me. Maybe I need some legal help. Okay. So now she decided to try to get legal help from Time's Up. Now, Time's Up was established in the wake of the Me Too movement to help survivors tell their stories. So now I'm going to go to a report here in The Intercept by Ryan Grimm. Now he writes that the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund was the recipient of an outpouring of donations over the past 2+ years and is set up as a 501c3 nonprofit housed within the National Women's Law Center. Now, it was launched in December 2017 and was the most successful GoFundMe in the site's history, raising more than $24 million. Among the accusers backed so far by Time's Up are some of those assaulted by Harvey Weinstein, as well as scores of others with allegations against executives in male-dominated industries. The group has committed more than $10 million towards funding people's cases. So now, Tara thought, okay, I'm going to go to Time's Up and I'm going to make my case because, look, sexual assault, sexual harassment, that doesn't know party, right? So you've had people get accused. Again, Harvey Weinstein was a huge Democratic donor. You also had Jeffrey Epstein, who was a massive predator, right? And so you've got that. And then you had on the Republican side, of course, obviously Donald Trump, and then other lawmakers getting themselves into trouble for, sexual assault, sexual harassment, rape, you name it, right? So it's not really a partisan thing. But unfortunately, the person that she was accusing this time happens to be Joe Biden. So now, still, Time's Up gave her a hearing, right? And actually, for a while, it looked pretty promising. So now, in January of this year, Reid spoke with program director at the National Women's Law Center, Ellie Driscoll, and was encouraged by that first conversation. Driscoll referred her to outside attorneys, Reid said, and suggested that the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund might be able to provide funding for PR and subsidize legal assistance. So Ellie Driscoll, is like, hey, yeah, I don't care. Look, I don't care if it's Joe Biden. I don't care if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter. You have a story. It's important. And we might be able to help you. All right, great. Now, Driscoll shared with Reid a note she planned to forward to attorneys, which read in part, quote, she publicly began sharing the harassment she experienced in April 2019, but was attacked online by Richard Painter, who is a University of Minnesota law professor who worked in the Obama administration, and journalist Edward Isaac Dover for being a Russian operative. So, like, anybody who's watched this show for some time knows I have no love for Edward Isaac Dover. He has been, well, okay, He's a hack reporter with The Atlantic. He hates progressives. He lies all the time. He smears and attacks people and makes terrible bad faith arguments. But there's that, right? So that's who's smearing this woman as a Russian agent. Okay. So now she said that there was, according to the article, there was more to the story of the harassment that she did not feel safe sharing at that time. This is back in that memo, actually. She's looking for support and sharing her story and guidance on any possible legal action she may be able to take against online harassers. Now, there's an editor's note in there which corrects Painter as serving not in the Obama administration, but is in the Bush administration, and had also ran in 2018 as a Democrat for the Senate. So now, of course, again, Dover attacked Reed as a Russian agent, a Russian asset. And so, to be completely honest with you, I mean, like, there's this hysteria, this anti-Russia hysteria going through the Democratic Party right now, the Democratic base. Now, look, did they try to interfere in our elections with memes, with dank memes and stuff? Yes. That said, everything is a Russian plot, according to centrist establishment Democrats. Everything. Hillary Clinton losing. Bernie Sanders' candidacy, right? They tried to smear him as being backed by the Russians, right? Everything that they don't like, they blame on Russia. So we're in McCarthyism, basically, at this, except that the Russians are hyper-capitalist. They're not communists. So it's still very, very strange. It would be very strange for someone like Bernie Sanders to be like, oh, yeah, no, the current Russian Federation, which is, again, very corrupt and hyper, capitalist. Oh, no, they're our BFFs. No, they're not. It's ridiculous. So now Dover based it on some Medium posts, though, the smears on Reed, on some Medium posts that she wrote, which were, hey, look, Russian friendly. In fact, I'll read that to you. She said, quote, President Putin scares the power elite in America because he's a compassionate, caring, visionary leader. To President Putin, I say, keep your eyes to the beautiful future, and maybe just maybe America will come to see Russia as I do, with eyes of love. To all my Russian friends, happy holiday and happy new year. So look, I got problems with that. Huge, huge problems, right? Putin is not a good person. He's not a good guy, right? Yes, he is an oligarch. He is massively corrupt. He is an authoritarian. He's anti-LGBT. And so, and of course, he's massively into oil and gas. So this person is, look, I don't agree with her view on Russia at that point, right? And so, but then again, look, if you think that that's terrible, right? Remember what our own President George W. Bush had said about Russia, about looking into Putin's eyes and getting a sense of his soul, right? Quote, this is George W. Bush. He's a man deeply committed to his country and the best interests of his country, and I appreciate very much the frank dialogue, and that's the beginning of a very constructive relationship. So that's George W. Bush. Is George W. Bush a Russian asset because he said something nice about Vladimir Putin? No. I think that on that specific instance, I think she's a little misguided, and she explains where she got that view. She said she learned about Russia and Putin through a Russian friend in her creative writing group. She said she wrote the post in the spirit of world peace and solidarity. Now, those are goals that I can agree with. So I like that, right? So do I want peace with Russia? Yeah. Do I want peace with Cuba? Do I want, yes. Yeah, I want peace with the world. I want to get along with other people, obviously, right? And look, the hope for that, by the way, is that maybe if we have a spirit of solidarity and actually a non-antagonistic relationship, well, first, we don't have to spend so much money on war, right? That sucks. War sucks. And so maybe we, wouldn't go to war as often and mess up other countries and our ridiculous proxy wars and all that stuff. And I know it's kind of a naive view, right? But understand that she sounds a bit like, to me, Marianne Williamson, right? Hey, peace, love, and that conquers everything. That would be great if that's how the world works. And so, look, I think she might be a little naive on that, but that has absolutely nothing to do with her allegation against Joe Biden. So understand that, right? And so they bring that up to muddy the waters and to say, oh no, she loves Putin, and Putin wants to disrupt our elections and make sure that somebody like Bernie Sanders wins. Oh, come, really? Is this what we're doing? Yes, it is what they're doing. That's exactly why they put out that propaganda against her. That's exactly why Dover and other writers in the establishment are smearing this person with a very credible allegation against Joe Biden. And again, if it were Bernie Sanders, Isaac Edward Dover would write 50 pieces in a minute, right? In that single day, condemning Bernie Sanders. Why Bernie bro is sexist? Oh my God! How could you not believe this person whatsoever? Isn't it funny how believe women only applies to people that you like? I can guarantee that every Bernie Sanders supporter, if there were an actual credible rape allegation or sexual assault allegation against Bernie Sanders, that we wouldn't go, if this is true, I'm done with you. You don't find that same thing in the establishment. And so that's a problem. But anyway, so now, again, post 2016, by the way, this is the last thing on the Russian stuff. Everything is the fault of the Russians. It's ridiculous. So now, anyway, going back to Time's Up, right? So now Time's Up said they'd be able to help, except that they didn't. By February, she learned from a new conversation with Time's Up, which also involved director Sharon Tajani, that no assistance could be provided because the person that she was accusing, Joe Biden, is a candidate for federal office, and assisting a case against him could jeopardize the organization's nonprofit status. Now, that argument's pretty weak. Ruling out federal candidates, they say, marks is off limits by any member of Congress running for re-election, as well as President Donald Trump. So that's Ryan Grimm saying that, and he's right. And so here's the question, right? Well, okay, Donald Trump has numerous allegations of sexual assault against him. Are they really saying that they wouldn't be able to fund those women to speak out against Trump? Trump's running for re-election. I mean, if you're going to fund those, but not the ones against Joe Biden that are credible, well, I mean, then it makes you want to ask, is it because they, are they, do they not want to fund those because of who's running? Or are they saying they don't want to because they don't want to lose their tax exempt status? And so that's the question, right? That's the question. And so, unfortunately, I think we already know the answer to that. And it's not good. Now, Aline April, professor of tax law at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles, said that Time's Up analysis is wrong, it's too conservative, and that the group wouldn't be putting its tax-exempt status at risk by taking on a case that involves a candidate for federal office, as long as it followed the standard criteria for taking on cases. So just, if they follow their criteria for taking on cases, they would be able to do that. And backing up this view, by the way, that it's because of Joe Biden is the reason that they don't want to actually help Miss Reed, is the fact that public relations firm that works on behalf of the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund is SDK Knickerbocker. Now, SDK Knickerbocker has a managing director who is part of the Biden campaign. She is the top advisor, Anita Dunn. You guys know Anita Dunn. Well, I did a story on her. And so they refuse to fund her case, and they claim it's because of the rules. But in reality, I think it's because they don't want this to sink the Biden campaign. And by the way, if it doesn't come out now, it's going to come out in October. It's going to come out during the general election. You know it. Because then the media doesn't want to talk about anything in the primary because they don't want Bernie Sanders to win, right? And I think that that's definitely the reason. And so But now, once Bernie Sanders is put to bed, right? Once they got this thing all locked up, and which they don't, right? There's still half the country that has yet to vote with the primaries that have been pushed back and a global pandemic now that has kind of changed people's views of socialism a little bit. Uh, and so you've seen Bernie Sanders come out and lead on all of these issues related to the pandemic. And so that really makes his case a lot more stronger um, than it does for someone like Joe Biden. And so they refuse to fund this case because it is damaging. And so that's why people are screaming Russia, Putin puppet, all over the place. But this is serious, right? And so I want to go here to a recording, right? And this recording um, is Miss Reed talking with Katie Halper. So now Katie Halper is a friend of the show. She's an excellent reporter. And so she decided to invite Tara Reid on to talk with her and release that interview in excerpts. I have some of that. I want you to listen to this and be warned, right? That this is disturbing. Anybody who is sensitive to discussions about sexual assault, you should probably not listen to this because it might be disturbing. To the rest of you, I'm going to let you listen to this, and it is infuriating.
We were alone, and it was the strangest thing. There was no like exchange really. He just had me up against the wall, and I was wearing like a skirt and business skirt, but I wasn't wearing stockings. It was kind of a hot day that day, and I was wearing heels. And I remember my legs had been hurting from the marble, of the Capitol, like walking. And so I remember that kind of stuff. I remember like I was wearing a blouse, and he just had me up against the wall, and the wall was cold. And I remember it happened all at once. The gym bag, I don't know where it went. I handed it to him, it was gone. And then his hands were on me and underneath my clothes. And yeah, and then he went down my skirt, but then up inside it. And he penetrated me with his fingers, whatever. And he was kissing me at the same time, and he was saying something to me. He said several things, and I can't remember everything he said. I remember a couple of things. I remember him saying first, before, like as he was doing it, do you want to go somewhere else? And then him saying to me, when I pulled away, he got finished doing what he was doing, and I kind of was pulled back, and he said, come on, man, I heard you liked me. And it's that phrase stayed with me because I kept thinking what I might have said. And I can't remember exactly if he said I thought or if I heard, but it's like he implied like that I had done this, like, I don't know. And for me, it was like everything shattered in that moment, because I knew like we were alone. It was over, right? He wasn't trying to do anything more, but I looked up to him. He was like my father's age. He was this champion of women's rights in my eyes, and I couldn't believe it was happening.
All right, so look, that's a little expert. I urge you to go and follow Katie Halper on Twitter at KT Helps, and she's got the full recording. That you got to listen to that. I mean, look, just listening to that little part is enraging, absolutely enraging. Other parts had him, grabbing her by the shoulders and saying, "Hey, oh, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay." No, not okay, not okay. And there's another part in it as well, which he said later, which is just absolutely enraging. But again, Katie Halper is doing an amazing job. So go and listen to the full interview. It's just, she does excellent work. So all credit goes to her. And of course, Tara Reid for coming out and being courageous as she is. But look, there needs to be an investigation. Obviously, I think she's telling the truth, not because she doesn't want Biden to be president, and not because I don't want Biden to be president. You guys know I don't. But here's the thing. This Look, this wouldn't be believable if Biden didn't have a track record of getting way too close to women, touching them inappropriately, and lying. I mean, Joe Biden has a history of lying, plagiarizing. He had to end an entire campaign because of it. And so he's got a lot of problems. This is different. All those other problems are, oh, I know he's a politician. I don't like him. He's taking bad votes. No, this is beyond the pale. This is something completely different. Way, way different. And so I think we should believe the victims until we're proven otherwise. And look, in this case, I don't see any reason not to doubt Tara Reid. Oh, but yeah, she's a Russian. No, she's not. She's somebody who hopes for a better world. Um, I mean, we all should, right? And unfortunately, though, of course, this is going to stop the attacks on a character. The attacks have already begun in earnest. But anybody who believes in the truth, who believes in the facts, and believes in protecting women should be on her side and trying to figure out, if she's telling the truth. And again, I believe that she is, and her account needs to get out there. And it is really distressing and depressing that this organization that has ties with the Biden campaign that is supposed to protect women didn't. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.